What does it do, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Scotty Says. I am your host, and welcome to episode 99, my folks. And in today's episode, we're going to go in deep on the Lakers, the current state of, and as was expected, the Lakers have drafted Son of the King, Bronny James, with their second pick, the 55th overall. That was not a surprise, but we'll get back to that. Let's really start where I find the most intrigue, shall we? Now listen. Full disclosure, I was never in favor of the Lakers hiring J.J. Redick as head coach. I wasn't when I first heard his name bandied about. I wasn't when it heated up. I wasn't when they veered off to the left with Hurley. I wasn't when they hired him. So, there you have that. And we'll get into some of the reasons why I feel this way. But, despite that, the Lakers have in fact done it. They pulled the trigger and they have hired J.J. Redick as the next head coach of the LA Lakers. And what does this all portend? My folks, how do the puzzle pieces connect, and what should we expect going forward? We're going to get into it. We're going to go in deep, as I mentioned, so get your mind right. Let's go. Now, I felt, and I still do, that Sam Cassell would have made a great hire as the next head coach of the Lakers. Now, Sam Cassell has a track record of winning, a championship pedigree going back as a player and then as part of coaching staffs. And that's the key point I want to drive home here. Secondarily, he has been a part of multiple coaching staffs. He has paid his dues on the coaching side of the ledger. And so, if you want to give an opportunity to a first-time head coach, why, I can't imagine a better choice than Sam Cassell. The Lakers didn't do that, as we know. I felt, well, if, let's say that you didn't want to go with a first-time head coach. Well, you did because you hired Redick. But let's say you wanted someone that had more gravitas. Mark Jackson, I think, would be a great choice if he was interested in getting back onto the sideline. Now, this is a guy, he is really the engineer of that Golden State train that ran through, but they brought in Steve Kerr to be the conductor for that last leg. And I don't know what the deal is, why Mark Jackson hasn't had another opportunity since then. It seems odd to me. But if you wanted to go with a coach with some history, some gravitas, Mark Jackson's right there. Let's say you wanted to split the difference. You wanted to go with a younger guy, but someone who still has a good amount of coaching experience. Well, wouldn't you know, Monty Williams just became available prior to you making a decision. You certainly as much time as you spent veering off with Hurley, you certainly could have veered off for another 2 or 3 days and given Monty Williams a good look, couldn't you? Lakers front office? Jeannie? And them? But no, you didn't want Sam Cassell. You didn't want Mark Jackson. You didn't want Monty Williams. No. You wanted Redick. Well, this is problematic on multiple levels and layers. Let's try to unpack it a little bit now. Okay. Let's start with this. In the run-up to a coaching decision, when the candidates were sort of being announced, bandied about, I kept hearing from the Lakers side that he looked the part. What the hell does that mean? See, I think I know what it means. But he looked the part? Well, see, the inference is clear then. I guess Sam Cassell doesn't look the part. No. Well, I kept hearing, well, he reminds us of another Pat Riley. Reminds you how of Pat Riley? Well, okay, they were both in the broadcast booth. They were both former players. Pat Riley was in the locker room with an NBA team. J.J. Redick is only coached 4th graders. His kid. And I saw he got ejected from a 4th grader's game for arguing, being profane with the poor 4th grade officials. This gets into part of what I'm driving home. It's a multi-layered issue with J.J. Redick, the lack of experience. That's a big, flashing red light. But then what about temperament, demeanor, disposition? Another one, flashing red light. It's like it's a party, red light district with this guy. Temperament, demeanor, disposition. What do I mean? Well, why are you being ejected from a 4th grader's basketball game? You're a former NBA professional player. These are children. There have been troubling rumors and rumblings and stories about this guy, Redick, for a long time. I don't have to enumerate them all here. You can look them up if you don't believe me. But I will say, even if I wasn't aware of that, I can tell from his TV persona. There's something a little off with this guy, I'm afraid. Looks like it may be to me, just as an armchair psychologist, maybe some anger management issues, hostility, volatility, temperament issues. There seems to be an arrogance, a sort of smartest guy in the room mindset that he appears to carry around. I saw, just as an aside, it was Carmelo Anthony was telling a story about how much Kobe detested Redick. You check that story out too. It was interesting, funny, interesting. But this very guy now is head coach of the Lakers. There have been, just since he's gotten the job, there have been some extremely disturbing allegations that have come out. And I will go into that because that's part of the public record. A black woman, a sister who attended Duke University at the same time, who worked with the basketball team in some capacity, says that JJ called her the N-word. And I believe her, and he strikes me as the type that wouldn't have a big problem with something like that as long as he could plausible deniability, which is exactly what he did. Never happened, he said. No, never happened. Well, someone's lying. Listen, I guess I might as well just take my aside, go down the first rabbit hole right here. I've spoken in other scenarios at length in some situations about the N-word and how I feel it is the most vile word in the English language because of all the hatred and evil, the atrocities, the degradation that it represents. And so I'll say right here and now, if it is somehow shown to be that he did in fact use this slur against black people and that he lied then on top of it in denying it, well, he should lose his job. And I'd be happy to see it. I don't know if that's something that can be proven, but just from what I've seen from afar, it wouldn't surprise me not one little bit. He sort of reeks, he smells of that type. He's got a roach thing about him. Just from what I've seen now. And I admit it's from afar, and I admit I could be wrong. But my racist star has been pretty good, for the most part, as a native growing up in the U.S. of A. But I want to go a step further and say beyond that, I want to say to my black brethren and sistren out there, your insistence, your lustful embrace of the use of the word amongst yourselves and in the culture and on every album and in every stand-up routine, in every recreational setting, in all the podcasts and videos, your use of the N-word is despicable. And then for you to posture and say if someone else, well, a European American, let's say, were to say it, he should lose his job, which he should. But where you and I disagree is when you say it, you should lose yours, brother, sister, because I see you using this vile epithet with wanton disregard for the history and the import of it. And so, just as I would love to see, if that's the case, that JJ Redick pays with the loss of his job, you should pay with the loss of yours. And I'll take it a step further. YouTube, the tube. I see these YouTubers, they bend over backwards to avoid demonetization by YouTube. I hear them. They say unalive. They won't even say kill because they're so terrified they might lose a few shekels. So you hear them using these YouTube terms like was unalived by, because YouTube has them in fear of using certain words words, and yet they use the N-word. I'm talking about the black ones specifically, and primarily they use the N-word all day, every other sentence. Demonetize them, YouTube. Demonetize use of the N-word. YouTube. That'll cut it. They'll stop then. I noticed the comedians, Chappelle and Kevin Hart and Chris Rock and all the big timers who love to use the N-word every chance they get on stage. When they have to perform or appear somewhere where they are instructed, if you use the word, we won't pay you, they somehow manage to perform without it. And you know what? They seem pretty much just as funny, I would say. I don't see a difference other than it doesn't have all that vile epithet degradation included in the act, which is why I don't support these guys. You're rhyming lyrics, and then you play these semantic games of, well, I put an A on the end, and you've got to listen. Is it an A, or what is the vowel or consonant configuration at the end of the word, so I know should I care whether or not? This is nonsensical. It's asinine. It's stupid. It's foolish. The word, it's sickening. Okay? It means, essentially, and I'll clean it up. And I'm not worried about you two because I don't make any money from them anyway. I'll clean it up. The word means you're a slave. That's all. That's what it means. You're not worthy of human status. You're a slave. That's what the word means. And you want to refer to yourself as such? Well, perhaps that's because maybe in that sense, that's what you are. But I stand on independence and revolution and a free way of thinking. I will never refer to myself or my loved ones in that manner. In fact, I don't need to refer to anybody in that manner because it just perpetuates use of the word. Let it die, black people. Now, back to regularly scheduled programming. I was never in favor of this hire. And unfortunately, the Lakers have consistently bungled the hiring process in multiple situations now. You could have hired Ty Lue, and you bungled it. You overmanaged it. You nickel and dimed it. And you lost out on a great opportunity to hire that coach. Okay, now you got Frank Vogel. Frankie V. All right, well, hey, he wasn't your first choice, fair enough, but he got you the bubble championship, right? Got a chip, number 17 out of him. The year later, time for him to go. And I mean, you've got Jason Kidd on your staff. You let B. Shaw get away. You've had so many options with coaches, and you seem to consistently pick the wrong one. And then when you do pick one, you don't give him time. And this is where I see where the puppet strings are being pulled. Because it seems to me, just from afar, it seems to me that after about 2 years or so, LeBron always manages to get tired of his head coach. After a couple years, whether they won a chip or not, whether they went to the finals or not, he gets tired of them. He's ready for someone new. And he's done that, it seems to me, pretty much. That's his pattern all the time. Well, he tried it in Miami, but Pat Riley said, no, Spoelstra is staying. You'll be going before Spoelstra. He said, oh, really? And he did. He did end up leaving. Pat Riley was a prophet in that case. But other than that, couple years, he's tired. He wants somebody new. And the organization, the franchise, they have to be able to stand up to LeBron and say, hey, Bron, listen, we're going to hire this guy. We gave him a 4-year deal. We're going to give him 3 years. And unless we see something that's just egregiously wrong, we'll let him play out his option for 4. You're going to have to. Now, we're going to give you all of the input into the hiring decision and process. And if you green light it and say, okay, in 2 years, when you get the Bron itch, we're not going to cut this guy loose, no matter what you come and say. Or have one of your proxies like, Rubber Band Man, what you have him say. No. Now, and see, in hindsight now, I see that is exactly what happened with Pastor Pockets, Darvin Ham. That's what they did. 1 year, they went to the Western Conference Finals. Then the next year, they got eliminated by the same team that had knocked them out the year before, who were now the defending champions. But they made the playoffs both years. And, in hindsight, what did Pastor Pockets do that was deserving of the boot? Especially when you didn't have anybody waiting. I could understand if you've got a guy waiting right there and you're like, hey, this is a golden opportunity to seize this magnificent coach. We've got the boot Pastor Pockets. Okay, I get it. But you booted Pastor Pockets and didn't know what to do. Well, let's see now. What do we do now? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. What do you think? See, and so it looked bungling. And then to go back to my earlier point, this whole notion of looking the part. See, I've seen Madam Buss, owner Jeannie, I've seen her fawn over folks. Okay? Did you see the little video of her and I believe it was Linda Rambis, the two of them? Linda and Madam Buss, did you see them fawning over LeBron, the king? There was one on each side of them, and they were doing the butterfly goo-goo eyes and touching and, your bicep, that kind of thing they were doing. This is the owner and the inner circle executive management team, the two of them fawning. There should have been little hearts and butterflies floating over their head. And I get it, that's the king, I get it, but control yourself, Madam Jeannie. You're the owner of the Lakers. And I see fawning has crept its way into the way the Lakers operate. Redick looks the part. We think he's our Phil. Freudian slip. We think he's our Pat Riley, she said. But since I opened that door, I'll go through it. Speaking of fawning, what happened when Dr. Buss was still around, still in charge? He had Kobe and he had Shaq Fu. And it was the white-haired man, Del Harris, trying to coach him, and they weren't getting anywhere. And Dr. Buss said, hey, I've got to bring in a big-time coach. And he said, well, look, the Bulls and they couldn't get over the hump either until that cool Phil Jackson came into the picture. He said, look what he did. As soon as Phil came, and Scotty and the Bulls, they just went on a title rampage. Dr. Buss said, well, that Phil is just sitting out there. They tried to run him out of Chicago. Yo, Phil, you want to come coach Shaq Fu, the Diesel, and the Cobster? And Phil Jackson, he said, well, Shaq and Kobe, hey, I can win with that. And Phil said, I'll do it. And as soon as he came, there they go, championships, just like, like magic. But, in the process of that, what is Madame Jeannie doing? Posing in one of the nudie magazines? No, that was earlier. No, she starts boinking the coach. She starts sleeping with, I believe he was still married at the time, Phil Jackson, the very man that her daddy brought in to turn the tide of the organization. She's throwing the booty on him. How about it, Phil? How do you like it? Fawning. So, I fear there might be some fawning at work with this whole Jeannie and JJ thing. You know what I mean? But in retrospect, you fired Pastor Pockets to look around aimlessly and settle on an ill-tempered, inexperienced former player as your head coach. To coach LeBron in the twilight of his career, it seems like yet another bad decision. Reminds me of bird brain behavior. Now, we'll see if all of this that I'm saying proves to be misplaced concern and the Lakers will sail and fly and soar. We'll see. Time's coming up. It'll be here before you know it. Time for training camp. But see, the thing of it is, all of this drama and everything, and you still got the same roster. And so, I suppose that is a perfect segue to the draft. Because for the Lakers to be competitive, no matter who the coach is, you've got to upgrade that roster. You've got to give Bron and AD3, a.k.a. Rubber Band Man Robin, you've got to give them some shooting support. They need some length and some rebounding. You need some youth. And so, here we are now, the draft and the Lakers. Well, with the 17th pick in the draft, they select a guard from Tennessee, Dalton Connect. And, a lot of people have spoken very highly of him. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've never seen him dribble a basketball other than the clips and highlights they put together. So I don't know what he will or won't be. I hope that he will be great. But what I do suspect, though, just based on the glee I saw from Redick and his crew, I do suspect that this is going to be someone that the Lakers intend to feature, and this leads me to think the next piece in the puzzle is a package deal to bring in a legitimate third star. I think that Dalton Connect will be the replacement for Reeves. I think Reeves will be packaged up and dealt in order to bring in a higher caliber return player. That's my suspicion anyway. And the Lakers certainly need athletic upgrades on that roster. to supplement and support the king. And the thing of it is, my folks, how will AD3, Rubber Band Man, how will he ever play more games than he did last year? The man played 76 games. Do you think he can do that again? I just would be astonished if he could. Of course, I was astonished he did it the first time, the last time here. We'll see. Can LeBron continue to fight off Father Time and injuries? We'll see. He seems to be uniquely capable of playing at an extraordinarily high level, deep into his career. No one left from LeBron James draft class playing in the NBA. None left, only he from his draft class. And he is not just still hanging around. He's still an all-star. He's still top shelf, upper echelon in the NBA. So it's remarkable, to say the least. But then, with the Lakers' second pick in the draft, the second round, pick 55, the double nickel, the Lakers select Bronny James. And of course, as I say, it wasn't a surprise. This had been in the works for some time. LeBron had said for some time that it was his goal and desire and dream to play with his son. And, after that cardiac arrest by Bronny while at USC, man, it's an amazing thing, and I don't begrudge, as has been said, nepotism is alive and well and rife all across the country, all aspects of life and society. So I don't begrudge LeBron for being able to get his son drafted by his team. And so I think Jeannie and them were probably happy to do it. If you saw that little video with the hearts and birdies fluttering around their head. So I hope that Bronny has a successful career in his own right, whatever that means. But mainly and more than anything else, I hope that he continues to enjoy good health and prosperity. And so when you put it all together and look at all the puzzle pieces, it's inescapable. The conclusion I must draw is that the king, LeBron James, is manipulating the scene, manipulating the strings from behind the scenes. LeBron, through Clutch Sports and with what I expect will be soon now a 3-year max deal, and he deserves every penny of it. LeBron James, now his wine-swilling, love-to-drink podcast partner is now his head coach, and with a 3-year max deal, and his son there, the dream realized to play with Bronny. And it just seems to me it's inescapable, the conclusion that LeBron James, at least for the next 3 years, owns the LA Lakers, for good or for ill. This does have written all over it. And of course, as you know, we will be here to cover it as developments warrant. And so, what I'm now going to ask from you, what I'm going to ask you to do is throw me one of these. Please like the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to leave me a comment if you agree, disagree with my takes. And so, I say big up, stay strong to Halima Nash, and We will see what develops as we move forward. But until the next time, which I suspect it won't be too long from this time, Scotty says, one love.